Welcome to part 40 of this online journal I've been keeping, posting new and updating information as I go along. I believe Shakespeare is the product of Edward de Vere and the Rosy Cross, and to one degree or another, Francis Bacon. Other writers may have contributed, but clues to de Vere and the Rosy Cross are found in the poems and plays of Shakespeare, as well as the 1611 King James Bible. Please see my last video, Verily, a Real Bible Code. I think Bacon shows up in the first folio and possibly in the poems, but clues that de Vere and the Rosy Cross were involved begin with the first two published works attributed to William Shakespeare, Venus and Adonis in 1593 and The Rape of Lucrece in 1594. The dedications are both to Henry Wriothesley and share similar codes. First, notice the decorated letters beginning each body, R and T. T or tau is a cross, and the letters RT or rho tau are initials for Rosy Cross. Their gematria values, 17 equal to R and 19 equal to T, are used to encode and indicate their name. Before I start showing these examples, there are a couple more things I want to point out in the dedication. In Venus and Adonis, the closing begins on line 17, and as Alexander Was pointed out, it's 40 characters ending with a period, 17 and 40. If you've seen Wa's videos, you know he explains that 1740 is a number signifying Edward de Vere. I can't recall if Wa has this in any of his videos, but in the Lucrece dedication, line 17 is 40 characters ending with a period, similar to Venus and Adonis. I'm not sure if this is meant to be understood as a code, but the closing is 43 characters. And the repeated count value of 43 is equal to 2 V's, letters that de Vere sometimes used. Something else that might be going on is in Venus and Adonis there are 20 italicized V's and a single double V in Wriothesley's name. There are a couple other words they could have spelled with double V like world and William, but they didn't, because counting all the V's there are 20 and 2, or 22 equaling twice 11. Which I believe is part of the Rosy Cross, if not another name for them. Also, in Lucrece, there's a 22-word message which I think is from Edward de Vere to Wriothesley that begins and ends with 2 words spelled with double V. Were is sometimes used in codes for de Vere's name, double V-E-R-E. The word count is twice 11, which I think may have been done intentionally. I believe the dedications to Venus and Adonis and Lucrece are connected by the R and T initials for Rosy Cross. Beginning with line 17, there are 40 characters ending with a period, and both have possible allusions to twice 11. Now we're looking at page 1 of Venus and Adonis, and the first thing we get is Edward Vere's name. It opens with this acrostic, EVHRH. I've explained in other videos, in classical Greek, H or eta was sometimes used for the long vowel E. Applying that here, EVHRH is EVERE, E-Vere. Obviously his name couldn't be spelled outright, so letters were used that could be read and understood by people who knew what they were looking at. All this contention over who wrote Shakespeare, and right from the start, in the very first publication, we have letters spelling Edward Vere's name. Next, we're going to find 3 references to the Rosy Cross. Counting from the beginning of the poem, the 19th word, cheeked, follows the word rose. Like I showed earlier, 19's equal to T. So what we do is replace the 19th word with T or tau and get rose T or rose cross. Next, following the word roses, there are 19 words till the end of the stanza. Again, 19 is T. Replace the 19 words with a tau and get roses T, the second example of rose cross. We can find the third by looking for God. Counting right to left this time like Hebrew, from roses tau, the 19th word is sweet. I learned how this word is used watching Peter Amundsen's Sweet Swan of Avon documentary. Again, H or eta was sometimes used for the long vowel E. Omega is the letter O, but notice how the lowercase omega is written similar to the Latin W. There are just a few letters that can be used this way. When we exchange the similar looking letters, sweet becomes S omega E eta T, or SOEHT. We are counting right to left. When we read this in the same direction, the letters are THEOS, Theos, which is the Greek word for God. God is symbolized by a cross, and from roses to Theos are 19 words. 19's equal to T. Replace the 19 words with T, the symbol for God, and we get the third example of Rose Cross. There are also three 1740s. Following the headpiece, count 17 lines. Printed on the 17th line are exactly 4 T's. The second 1740 is found by counting up from the bottom of the page, 17 lines, and reading right to left. On the 17th line are 4 words followed by the letter D. 1740 sounds like 1740, but I think we're supposed to keep reading. The word hide, read right to left, is D-E-I-H, which I think is meant to be pronounced D. Either way, we get 1740, which is a homophone of 1740. The third is found by using the word will. This same code is going to turn up again in Lucrece and the Sonnets. The word is wilt, but following the letters for will, W-I-L, the 17th character begins the spelling of F-O-R-T. Will 1740. In Venus and Adonis, Lucrece, and the Sonnets, names for God and will are used to encode 1740 and Rose Cross, and the word will follow the same method of counting after it and landing on the relevant information that's part of the code. Page 1 of Shakespeare's first publication opens with an acrostic spelling of the name E. Vere, and Rose Cross and 1740 are each encoded 3 times. This isn't random. Similar codes are found using the same methods in Lucrece and the Sonnets. This is page 1 of Lucrece. It might be opening with something similar to the first page of Venus and Adonis, except the acrostic at the beginning uses the letters FRB, which happen to be the first letters of Francis Bacon. Is it him, though? They show up again later in the Sonnets, and his name appears with 1740 and a few acrostics in the first folio, so I believe he was a part of the Shakespeare project and the Rosy Cross. I can understand why E. Vere is at the beginning of Venus and Adonis, but why Bacon would be here, I don't know. Anyway, you can decide. The 3 Rosy Crosses and 1740s are found between lines 477 and 497, and it's the only time Rose and Cross appear on the same page. The 1740s follow a similar pattern to the ones in Venus and Adonis. Count the lines, and on line 17 there are 4 T's. Then count the lines again, this time going up. On the 17th line there are 4 words, actually comprised of 17 characters, followed by the letter T, 17-4T. Notice it's part of the word fort, or forty, which leads to the third code. Counting the letters before the word fort, or 4T, there are 17, 17-4T. That's 1740 3 times, and it follows the Venus and Adonis pattern of counting down on the left, finding 4-letter T's, then counting up on the right and finding 4 words followed by T. Now we're going to locate the 3 Rose Crosses, this time by finding God first. Above 1740 are the words am I, highlighted in blue. Read right to left, it spells I am, which is God's name in the Old Testament. Beginning with I am, there are 19 words before Rose. T is equal to 19, and if we replace the 19 words with the letter T, we get rose tau, meaning rose cross. Continuing with the same rows and counting right to left, there are 19 words that follow rose to the beginning of the page. Replace the 19 words with T, and we get rose cross a second time. Just like with Venus and Adonis, 19 words in God are used to encode rose cross, and similar to that poem, will is going to be used to find a third. Notice how will, highlighted in blue, is spelled with a capital W as if it's a name. When you read modern printings of the poem, they use a lowercase w. I think they use will in these codes because it's alluding to Will Shakespeare. So after will, start counting, and when you get to 17, you land on the word or letter that's part of the code. After will, rose is the 17th word, an obvious clue. With gematria, the 17th letter is R or Ro, and the first initial of Rosy Cross. In the line above rose is the word crosses, after which there are 19 characters till the line ends. Crosses is a clue because 19 is equal to T, which is a cross. Replace the 19 characters with a tau, and along the right side we get a T and an R. We started at will, so we're reading upwards, and from will, meaning Shakespeare, rose is the 17th word. Then there are 19 characters from crosses to the end of the line. With gematria, 17 is equal to R and 19 is equal to T. Rho tau are the initials for Rosy Cross. That's 3 times rose cross, and 1740 are found on the page. Just like Venus and Adonis, they use a word for God, and 17 is counted from will to land on a word or letter that's part of the code. Replace the counts with their equivalent letter, and we get rose cross. The codes in Lucrece reflect the codes in Venus and Adonis. The dedications are similar. One begins with R, the other with T, which happen to be initials for Rosy Cross. I don't think this all happens without design. These same codes and methods carry over into the Sonnets, published several years later. On the cover are 3 examples of God, Rosy Cross, and Vere. Alexander Waugh initially found 2 examples of God and Vere explained in his videos Where is Shakespeare Really Buried? I'd found one with Vere and the Golden Rosy Cross explained in my 8th video, but it turns out there are 3 of each. We'll start with the first set of codes. Waugh explains that the letter P in Spears serves as a Greek letter Rho, and he was able to draw a Chi-Rho symbol. When the symbol is complete, the X or Chi points to the letters spelling G for God, D-E-V-E-R-E. What I found is, in addition to the letters for God and de Vere, the symbols pointing to the letter P or Rho, and also the letter T or tau in the byline. These are the same RT or Rosy Cross initials found in the other 2 poems. So the Chi-Rho symbol points to God, de Vere, and the Rosy Cross. That's the first one. This is also from Waugh's video. When he decodes the byline, it reads, "By God and Oxford 17 Earl." The only difference I would make here is that I would spell Ox in the way that it appears in de Vere's signature and in the first folio. De Vere would sometimes spell his name with an E on the end and Oxenford, but you can see here he also spelled it O-X-E-F-O-R-D. And in the Merry Wives of Windsor, there's a line that's actually part of a code, but Ox is spelled O-X-E. This isn't going to change the message that Waugh found. It still reads, "By God," spelled G-T, and Oxford 17 Earl. But what it does is it gives us 2 numbers. There's the number 17 for Oxford's Earl number, found by counting the number of letters on the byline before it's decoded. Then when the byline is decoded and Ox is spelled O-X-E, like in de Vere's signature in the folio, there are 19 letters. So we have 17, which is equal to R, and 19, which is equal to T. RT, Rosy Cross. That's the second God, Vere and Rosy Cross. The third is also found in the byline. In the 8th video, I explain how when the byline's unscrambled, it reads, by Gold Cross, Rosy Cross, and spells a pronunciation of Vere's name. Andare in Italian means to go, which in Spanish is ir. In Spanish, B and V are pronounced the same, so B and dare translates to Vere. The thing is, the name of the secret society was the Gold and Rosy Cross. We still have that here, but it leaves a T left over, which is exactly what we're looking for because T is a cross and symbolizes God. So we have God, Gold, Rosy Cross, and Vere. That's 3 times on the cover of the Sonnets we find God, Vere, and Rosy Cross. Also, if we count only the words and abbreviations for words, but not the date, which is a number, there are 22 or twice 11 words total. This might be some mathacadabra on my part, but if we add the 22 words to the date of 1609, it totals 47. 47 equals the letter values of the name Vere, and it's also equivalent to 7 plus 40. If de Vere had been king, he would have been Edward VII. And in the way that 1740 is his Earl encode number, 740 could have been his king encode number. Unlike the rest of the cover, though, this could just be a coincidence. Now we're looking at the dedication, and just like Venus and Adonis and Lucrece, it's dedicated to Henry Wriothesley. When the name Mr. W.H. is read right to left, like so many of the Rosy Cross codes, it reads HWRM. HW are initials for Henry Wriothesley. The offset lowercase r is a clue that's appeared in other codes. The gematria value for r is 17, and in Hebrew m or mem is equal to 40. HWRM are initials for Henry Wriothesley 1740. It begins the 3rd line, and Wriothesley was the 3rd Earl of Southampton. It's also the 9th word. If he was Elizabeth's son, he would have been Henry the 9th. Since it's all abbreviations for a name, I think it can be counted as a single word, and when we do, the line is 17 letters and 3 words. 17 is equal to R, and 3 is equal to C. RC are the initials the Rosy Cross used in their publications and in the folio. 17 and 3 are used for Rosy Cross codes. The sonnets were published several years after the first 2 poems, and I think here they started using the codes RT and RC, which are both initials for Rosy Cross. Also, if you count all the characters on the line, including the dots or points, there are twice 11 or 22. When the sonnets begin, the first thing to notice are a couple acrostics. The letters FRT stand for Fratres Rosicrucis, Fraternity of the Rosy Cross. Also, what appears to be a Pythagorean or right triangle can be drawn around the letters FRB. This matches the same letters at the beginning of Lucrece. Are they meant to be the first letters of Francis Bacon? I don't know, but de Vere's on the page. Following the headpiece, there are 17 lines. Then, when the sonnet begins, there are 13 lines till the page ends. In Hebrew, the 13th letter is mem, which is equivalent to 40. After the 17th line, the sonnet begins with a double V. With gematria, V equals 20 and 2 V's equal 40. The words "when 40 winners" are comprised of 17 letters, and they're an allusion to Oxford. He's 40, or the 4th T, and in the sonnets he's winter and Wriothesley's summer. Counting from the beginning of the sonnet, were, W-E-R-E, is the 57th word. Were is sometimes used for de Vere's name. A W is 2 V's, and W-E-R-E can be read as V-V-E-R-E, Vere spelled with a double V. And to know that were is definitely referring to him, it's the 57th word. 57 is 17 plus 40. Also on the page are 3 Rosy Cross codes. From the word rose, reading right to left, there are 19 characters to the beginning of the line. Replace the 19 characters with T, and it's Rose T, Rose Cross. Next, reading left to right from Rose, there are 3 words. 3 is equal to C. Replace the 3 words with the letter C, and it's Rose C. Like I explained with the dedication, RC were the initials used by the Rosy Cross, which you can see on their publications like the Fame and the Confession. This RC, or 17 and 3 code, also turns up in the first folio, which I'll go over in the next video. For the third code, we're going to use the word will, similar to the previous poems. Here, I think a clue is that the word will is spelled with one L. R is equal to 17, and counting from will, spelled W-I-L, there are 17 lines to the T in the FRT acrostic. RT, or Rotau, is Rose Cross. Will uses the same method as the other 2 poems. You count 17 after it and land on the word or letter that's part of the code. So after will, count 17 lines and it lands on T. 17 is equal to R, RT, Rosy Cross. So that's 3 times we find Rose Cross at the beginning of the sonnets. There's one more page I want to go over, and it might help explain some unusual punctuation. The word rose is printed 3 times in Sonnet 54. Before I get to them, I think there are 3 examples of 1740. Count 17 lines from the top of the page, and the first letters on the line read 4T. Beneath the word for, there's another T. Usually that would be counted as a 4T code, so that might be 1740 again. Just above the letter spelling 4T, starting with the T in the rose, count 17 lines, and there are 4 T's. Now we're going to find the 3 rose crosses. Counting from the beginning of the sonnet, the 19th word, looks, follows the word rose. 19 is equal to the letter T, and if we replace the 19th word with T, we get Rose Tau, or Rose Cross. The next rose is printed exactly 19 lines from the top and bottom of the page. Again, 19 is equal to the letter T, so we have Roses T, or Roses Cross. Now we get to the third rose. I've always thought it was odd that there's a break in the middle of the line. Die to themselves, period. Sweet roses do not so. I've wondered if there was something to that. Remember how I explained in Venus and Adonis how the word sweet, when read right to left like Hebrew, is theos, the Greek word for God. H or eta is used for the long vowel E, and W looks like a lowercase Greek omega, which is O. S-W-E-E-T can be read as S-O-E-H-T. Right to left, it's theos, meaning God. In Venus and Adonis and Lucrece, we located the third Rosy Cross by finding a word that means God. It's the same with the sonnets. Reading from the end of the line, there are 19 characters to the T in theos, which is the beginning of that sentence. I think that's why there's a period. It's a hint that there's something there, but it also lets you know where the line ends and the count stops. T is equal to 19, but it's also a cross and a symbol for God. Replace it with T and we get Rose Cross. Just like Venus and Adonis and Lucrece, we get 1740 and Rosy Cross 3 times. There's one more example of Rosy Cross codes that can be easily figured out. The double V character, like the one that begins Sonnet 2, is found in 17 sonnets, but it's printed a total of 19 times. For example, it appears twice in Sonnet 57. De Vere sometimes signed his name double V. 1 V is equal to 20 and 2 V's equal 40. Since double V is printed in 17 sonnets, it might be alluding to 1740, indicating Oxford. But the double V appears a total of 19 times in 17 sonnets. With gematria, 17 is equal to R and 19 is equal to T. So 17 double V's and 19 sonnets is equal to RT, initials for Rosy Cross. The encoding that went into the sonnets is extraordinary. Just like Venus and Adonis and Lucrece, there are references to Rosy Cross in 1740. There are also twice 11 references in Sonnet 22, which is 11 plus 11, and Sonnet 121, which is 11 times 11. And there's the dedication, which can be written into a 19-grid pattern based on T or tau. Wah explains how this works in his videos. When the grid is made, rebuses can be drawn in the shapes of crosses. Wah found most of these, and I found a few. The messages in the rebuses tell us where de Vere is buried and refer to a paternity lie in his line. There's a rebus about Henry Wriothesley and an ensuing son, and rebus is referring to God and truth. Of all the codes in the Shakespeare works, the dedication grid is among my favorite. There's also a message encoded within the marked sonnet numbers. I go over this in my first video, and more recently in video 38 I explain some more about it. Once decoded, there are letters that if you pronounce them in your mind or out loud, you're repeating God's first spoken words from Genesis, "Let there be light, and there was light." The code uses the same Kabbalistic methods mentioned by John Dee in Monas Hieroglyphica, Gematria, Notaricon, and Zeruf. Applying Notaricon, it uses the first letters from each of the marked sonnets and the single marked catchword or. Then, applying Zeruf and unscrambling the letters, we get F Rosy T, which means Fratris Rosy Crucis, or Fraternity of the Rosy Cross. These initials are found at the beginning of the first sonnet, FRT. Applying Zeruf again, and the letters spell 4 T's. Something I'd figured out is that using Gematria, T is equal to 19. 4 T's add up to 76, as do the letters that spell Oxford. This is one reason why 4 T's is a reference to Edward de Vere. Considering all the other codes are 1740 and Rosy Cross, it makes sense that these names are being referred to. In addition to the similarities we find in the dedications, on the first page of Venus and Adonis we get Edward de Vere's name and 3 Rosy Cross and 1740 codes. On the first page of Lucrece we get letters that may stand for Francis Bacon, and the only time the words Rose and Cross are printed on the same page, we get Rose Cross and 1740 codes appearing 3 times as well. Using the same methods, we find the same codes and a lot more in the sonnets. The methods aren't complicated, it's mostly number, letter substitution, and counting. That's all. You just have to know what to look for. We see de Vere's name and possible hints at Francis Bacon, whose name I believe definitely shows up in the first folio, and Rosy Cross is everywhere. But the person who's most likely responsible for much of the encoding in the earlier works, particularly the sonnets, is John Dee. One of the many rebuses Wah discovered in the sonnet's dedication grid is in the shape of Westminsters, and when you unscramble the letters it's comprised of, they spell the Westminster. As Wah points out, the letter in what would be the courtyard is D. There might be another hint just below Sonnet 14. The only time a dot or point is printed with a catchword is here, beneath the word or. It's part of the Fiat Lux Christos code I explained in the other videos, but I think it was printed below Sonnet 14 because the letters that spell D total 14. I'm going to end this here and continue in the next video. Bacon's name is more obvious in the first folio, but if those are his letters at the beginning of Lucrece and the Sonnets, what is his role in all this? We have 3 dedications to Henry Wriothesley, 1740 Edward de Vere and Rosy Cross codes, but what does it all mean? I'll have some ideas on that, some updates on twice 11, and a possible explanation for the King's 1740 codes I found in the Bible and folio. If you have any ideas, please share them in the comments. Thank you to Alexander Wah for all his discoveries, and to you for watching.